It's Sports by the Book at the South Point Studio. Here's Jeff Parles and Alex White.
Pleasant good morning. Sports by the Book. I'm Jeff Parles. I was not selected for the Olympic team this morning, Alex.
And I'm Alex White, ready for some hockey. It is time, game one of the Stanley Cup Finals.
Hockey, and Willie Ramirez joins us later in the program. Alex has been looking forward to this all week long, and the sports gods gave us a great story to talk with Willie about later in the show as well, because anything Caitlin Clark related is gets an extra level to it, and they apparently are leaving her off the U.S. Women's Olympic team, and we'll get Willie's thoughts on that, and also a pretty significant upset here yesterday in Vegas with the Storm upsetting the Aces, so we'll get that with Willie. And also, of course, what's a Saturday without Vinny Magliulo? Vinny will be here. Belmont Stakes today. We'll get his thoughts. We got Dwayne Colucci's thoughts yesterday. Not even a peep out of Sean and Jerry. That's just not good, guys. Not good.
They're focused.
They're locked in.
They're
locked in. And also too, Jerry's usually downstairs doing important work, technologically speaking,
Correct.
downstairs for us. So give Jerry a pass. Sean, no pass. All right, swoosh it, Sean. Maybe, possibly. See,
There it is.
I mean, Jerry, if we get some sort of like music along with that swoosh, be the best thing on the network. What was that? I think we do. I agree. I'm with Jerry. Starting five gets us going here today at number one. Something called the Stanley Cup Final begins today. We've been waiting about a week for it. The Florida Panthers and the Edmonton Oilers. As we know, the longest distance between two teams. Eddie Olczyk is like, wait a second, New York to Vancouver, pretty far as well. I checked it. It's only about a 100-mile difference. It's not a long difference. So it's New York, Vancouver, 94 was close as well, and Boston as well. But Boston, Vancouver was close as well. But here you go, game one. Dime line's behind us, minus 137 on Florida, plus 127 on Edmonton here for a game one in the Stanley Cup Final, and then minus 140 on Florida for the series, plus 130 for Edmonton. There will be something in the MVP market that happened here at the South Point that caught Sean's eye this morning. We'll talk about that in a little bit, Alex, but I at least want to tease that for about 5 minutes from now.
Looking forward to getting to that game and that breakdown. Number two, Dodgers and Yankees, game two. Yesterday was a pitching duel in game one. Scoreless until the 11th inning. Dodgers end up winning that 2-1. But tonight, the Yankees and Nestor Cortez are a minus 120 favorite. Gavin Stone gets the nod for the Dodgers. Total in this one, 8.5.
Fun with stats real quick on that.
Yeah.
Nothing into the 11th last night at Yankee Stadium. It was the third game in the live ball era. So that's 1920, Alex. Between the top two teams of Major League Baseball in on-base plus slugging. So OPS, that was scoreless through 10 innings. The last time that happened was 1956. That was the Yankees and the Red Sox. And also the number two OPS team won all three times in that matchup. That's your useless facts of the day, but Sarah Langs is awesome, and I love that. I love that stat when I saw it last night. Number three, Belmont at Saratoga. Races are already underway. Sean, are you having a good day so far at Saratoga? No? You got plenty of time to turn it around. Oh, he hasn't played anything yet. Oh, okay, so there's nothing to turn around yet. Sierra Leone's your favorite, still as of this morning. It gets going about 350. For that one, 3:50 Pacific, 6:50 local time in Saratoga for the Belmont Stakes. Vinny will give us his thoughts when he's on with us later in the show.
Looking forward to that. Remember, here at South Point, the sportsbook and the horse races are separated. Only book in Vegas. So get down here and get your horse bets in.
That way, to our left.
Right there.
A lot of that. That'd be stage right for you watching us at home.
Very good.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay, number four, final thoughts on game two in the NBA. Of course, we will not be here tomorrow, so we really have to break down this game two. Celtics at home, minus 7 total in this one, 214.5. So right where we saw game one. But of course, that didn't even come close to touching that total.
Did not. We'll have a preview of that as well, since we're not on the air, of course, tomorrow. Sunday's one of our off days. And then number 5, again, this very well will determine the team representing the Eastern Conference in the Commissioner Cup final. The Liberty go up to Mohegan Sun to take on the Sun of Connecticut. Of course, Connecticut, the only undefeated team left. The Liberty are undefeated in the Commissioner's Cup. With a win today, the Liberty will clinch the Eastern Conference berth in the Commissioner Cup final. It'll just be a matter of, will they have home court or not? Courtney Vandersloot won't play, out for the second consecutive game with a personal matter. New York, 2, 154. The total is, people are, wow, banging that under here. 157 out of 154 just moved behind us, Alex.
That's the correct move, I would say. That's the way I've decided to play this game. But yesterday, 3 upsets in the Commissioner Cup games kind of threw off my trends here. But remember, trends, just information to give out. It doesn't mean just go bet the favorites, but now has evened out a little bit. Favorites now in Commissioner Cup games, 11-5 against the spread.
And not only that, the only favorite that won was Indiana, who, again, one of the weaker teams in the league to begin the season. But the Mystics, when's that first win coming? So, over still, Alex White. They also played that game at Capital One Arena in Chinatown there in D.C. and sold out the joint pretty quickly.
Yes, they did. And that's the only game that went over yesterday as well, because we have had a lot of unders in these Commissioner Cup games too. But you got to watch out for Indiana. They want to run, and Washington does not. And Fever did really good. They forced them to play at their pace. Yeah, it was a high-scoring, exciting game there.
Taylor Clark with a career-high 30.
Yes.
That's a WNBA career high. Of course, not an actual career high, as we know, for Clark.
And 7 3-pointers, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep. Mostly from beyond the arc. Here's your starting 5 for today here on Sports by the Book. Alex, you were complaining about how hot it is outside today, which today is supposed to be the quote-unquote cool-down day here in Vegas, which is fun because it's still going to be 106. But it's let's get a little bit colder here going to the ice for game 1. Florida and Edmonton. We've been talking about it for a better portion of a week. Dime line behind us, minus 137, minus 137 on Florida, plus 127 on the take back on Edmonton, minus 140 on Florida to win this series right now. Alex, we talked about this the other day, and we'll have to ask Vinny about this, what happened here, where we talked about Zach Hyman having a wildly high price. Zach Hyman's now all the way down in the single digits right now.
Really?
Yeah, so I would imagine, and we'll get the news from Vinny at the end of the show, I would imagine that some hefty bets came in on Hyman right now. Actually, the same number as Matthew Tkachuk to win the Conn Smythe. So I would imagine that.
So my 100 to 1 is looking pretty good.
I
right
think
now
your 100 to
for
1's got Alex, you got some great closing line value at the very minimum on that. There you go.
It's usually how those future bets work, though. You're holding a great closing line value ticket that doesn't cash.
Yeah, you won't be able to bet a sandwich with it at the end. I forget whose line that was, but that might have even been Chris's line, actually. But regardless, I'm curious what you think here, because we've talked about this all week. We know I like the favorite in this series, and I like the favorite tonight here in Game 1. But as we get closer to this series starting, a little thing in the back of my mind, Alex, is like, hey, as great as Florida is as a whole, legitimate argument, and as well as Tkachuk and Barkov and Bennett have played in this postseason, David and Draisaitl are still the 2 best players in this series, and they're on the Edmonton side. And so I still like Florida, not moving off of that. But it's definitely in my head like, all right, maybe this is just because we've waited a week.
Right.
But it's like, all right, maybe this series is a little more competitive than I at least first thought.
Well, and that's a good point, Jeff. A lot of people do think Florida will get this done in a pretty short time here, 5 or 6 games. But I definitely think the dog is live. But the longer this goes on, I'm realizing how competitive it's going to be as well. Of course, 5-on-5 advantage Florida. But I think with the power play, special teams, the advantage goes to the Oilers here. So kind of depends. I mean, Florida, they're very physical, aggressive, in your face, annoying. Sometimes that can lead to them being in the box. And if that happens, then I do think that the Oilers will capitalize on that. So I do think they are a live dog. I haven't touched anything yet. I'm going to kind of see how this first one goes. Besides first period, I did go over that 1.5. I do think we're going to see more goals in this first one, at least at the beginning. I mean, huge drop off to goalies, right, for both of these teams. So especially when you think about Florida and who they have been through. Swayman, Vasilevsky, then, well, opposite order. Vasilevsky, Swayman, and then Shesterkin, of course, there. And now Stuart Skinner has been playing very well, but he is not up to that level. On the flip side, with Edmonton, of course, they just got through with Ottinger there and the Stars. So I like the 1.5. I'm expecting some fireworks in that first period. It's going to be aggressive. They're going to be taking their shots. And I definitely lean to Edmonton in this series as well, but I haven't done anything. Series price, or first game sidewise.
Just, again, eyeballing everything that has to do with this series. And again, I still am going to pick Florida in 5. That's what I've been thinking the whole way through. When you have a team, again, and Lou Finicaro has brought this up to us as well when he's been on our show over the last few months, getting your teeth kicked in a playoff scenario like Florida did. Look, in Edmonton, I guess, I get it. This group has had plenty of playoff failings. But Florida was in a cup final a year ago. And that team was, for lack of a better word, they were average. And they were injured on top of it. And they still made it to the cup final. This team is significantly better than a year ago. Significantly. And I just wonder, having that experience a year ago in the final, now granted, next year probably will show up that Florida's played an extra 2 months of hockey back-to-back years. That would probably be the time to fade them. But it's not the time now. And for Edmonton, we've talked about this all postseason, Alex. They found something in that Dallas series that you and I both think they didn't have, which was elite, which was high-end to elite back-end play. And they were outshot, 35-10 in Game 6 and still found a way. You do that against Florida, you're going to lose. You're just going to lose. And I think for Edmonton, more so than anything, and this is just physicality versus finesse, and this is why Lou liked Florida all the way through when we had them on that was 3.5, 4 months ago at this point. This is Florida's series to lose. And if Edmonton wins, look, then an all-time great player gets his cup in McDavid. He's already a Hall of Famer. He's going to be enshrined in Toronto one day. But you get that cup and you take yourself to a different level, historically speaking. I mean, look at Ovechkin. I mean, all those years it was, it's Alexander Ovechkin. Can't win the Stanley Cup. He wins the Stanley Cup, and the conversation of his greatness, it basically is like, all right, well, we knew he was great already. You won the cup. We don't have to have that silly argument anymore.
Correct, which we do know Connor McDavid is great already in what he's done since being drafted first overall 9 years ago. But I did find it interesting. I was listening to some pre-series post-conference media day, and they were asking McDavid about the physicality of the Panthers, and he said, we saw a lot of physical teams already. I mean, we had to get through Vancouver. And I was like, Vancouver? Here we all thought that the Dallas Stars were the most physical, toughest team in the West, and he brought up Vancouver. But that makes sense why that series went so long. On the flip side, all the talk about Paul... Why am I blanking on his name? Maurice.
What Paul Maurice, yeah.
Paul Maurice needs a cup, and the guys, I mean, they love him. They want to win for him. So that is another factor I actually have to handicap in. And you bring up a good point about them being there last year. The year before that, they won the President's Cup, so they were very good already. They lost in the first round, moved some pieces around, added some pieces. Last year took a while to click, made it all the way to the finals, and then just couldn't get it done. So, I mean, they're ready. They're locked in. I think both teams are, and it's going to be a great series. And I that's what I actually should look for. I think it'll be a long series. So
you do think it'll be a long series?
I'm going to look for Oilers plus a game and a half, or over six games, or 5.5 plus.
So let's just get those for you right now.
Thank you.
Series spread here. You want to lay $1.90 plus a game and a half? I don't know about that.
Wow.
That's a pretty steep price to lay on a plus a game and a half. I'd actually rather a Florida laying the game and a half in that circumstance as a plus price. If I were just looking at that in that scenario. Series total games, 7 is actually the betting favorite. Oh, actually, 6 and 7 are both 2-1 right now. These are from DraftKings. Plus 275 on game 5 on 5 games. Sweeperoonie is a 6-1, which is not a good enough price if you want that. I can tell you that right now. So if you're interested on that, here's an interesting one from DraftKings, and I know you're going into this cold, but I feel like the pricing is a little, no pun intended there. The pricing's a little bit weird on this. Who would you expect to be most goals in the series? Who do you think would be favored in that market? If we're just going on the surface, who would you make the favorite?
Ooh. I mean, Hyman has the most goals right now in the playoffs, but
Would you make it McDavid? Would you make it one of the Florida guys? I would, just thinking about it on the surface, I'd either make it Draisaitl or McDavid, personally. The market has Zach Hyman as the betting favorite at plus 360. Then Reinhart at plus 450 on the Florida. It would, if we were looking at Florida, I'd probably either go for Hagee or Reinhart, who are the two betting favorites Florida-wise. Draisaitl's plus 475. For Hagee's at plus 550. McDavid's 6-1. Tkachuk plus 850. Barkov is 16-1, and then everyone else is 30-1 or longer. I'm a little surprised that Hyman, and look, this is shop around, because there are still some big bloated prices on Hyman out there. Still some hundreds, still some 75, still a lot of big prices on there. If Zach Hyman is the favorite to have the most goals in this series, and this is, again, these numbers are from DraftKings, shop around, see what other numbers are out there. Doesn't it have to mean that Hyman's number has to be, and again, ignore the 5-1 behind us real quick. Shouldn't the rest of the market be at least in the pocket of, on the high end, the 35s to 1s, the 30s to 1s? As you mentioned, he's the highest scoring player in this postseason. Conn Smythe is technically a full postseason award.
Right.
And if the Oilers win this series, he has a legitimate stake to possibly win this thing. Possibly. I'm not saying he will, but there's at least an argument for it.
It definitely is. And like I said, I mean, if he has multi-goals in a game or even two, I think he is definitely live to win that. And just looking at last year, I mean, Mark Stone was definitely one of the best players throughout the playoffs to get Vegas that cup, but Marchessault had the most goals and they went that route. So I could definitely see that happening. I am curious, what is Sam Bennett?
Most goals?
No, for the MVP.
Conn Smythe. Bennett's in the field here, so that's 50.
Okay.
Which I have to imagine that's actually not a horrible price. Bennett, well, actually, you know what? I was wrong. Bennett's 300-1. Now, there is obviously a question of how much he's played in this postseason because of injury.
Right. He did miss a few games.
Yeah, that's tough.
But he has been so crucial for them since he has come back. I mean, they were struggling in that first series against the Lightning. And once they got Sam Bennett back, that really was a game changer.
I will say this. Alex. If you're betting behind us and there's field at 50-1, you're getting Gustav Forling as well in the field, who has been, there's an argument to be made. Forsling has been one of the 3 best players on Florida from a defensive perspective, just throwing it in there. One of the 3 best players in general on Florida this postseason run. You'd get Bennett. You'd get Nugent Hopkins, who, again, the long shot, he's 500-1 at other shops, but you get him. You get your favorite Evander Kane as well on that if you wanted. Get Ekblad. But I don't know. It's shop around if you want that. During the break, I'm going to ask you what one book in town, because my app is not working on that book right now for whatever. All right. I want to do this real quick. We talked about college baseball yesterday a little bit. There were no upsets yesterday. By the way, Tennessee's also in the middle of, I don't want to say it because it's baseball and we know wacky stuff can happen, but Tennessee is in the midst of putting Evansville away here. They're up 4-0 already in that game here in game 2. Florida State, who put 3 touchdowns on 3 touchdowns plus on UConn yesterday, with a 4-2 lead in game 2 of that series at the moment. Georgia and NC State just got underway in Athens, game 1. But you have 2 bets of 2 teams that lost yesterday. One of them losing in agonizing fashion is North Carolina down a run going to the bottom of the 9th, homer to tie the game, walk off to win at 8-6. West Virginia, by the way, did cover the run line. They were getting 2.5. They did cover it. But you like two dogs today. They're both in the Big 12. They're both technically the home teams in these games today, but you like the run line on both of these today.
I do. And my dad, Kenny White, was on the show with us on Thursday and kind of went through these series with us. He liked both of these as a shot to win this series. So both coming into this game in a 0-1 hole. So Kansas State, I took the run line plus 3.5 and West Virginia plus 3.5. So like you mentioned, West Virginia, that was a terrible, brutal loss to North Carolina, but I think they could hang in this one. So, I mean, I think both of them have a shot to actually win the game. So I think 3.5 is a pretty good run line there for these two.
3.5. Take them both. There's 2.5 behind us on K-State. So shop for those 3.5s. That there are some. You are laying a price though on the 3.5s on the Purple Cats, who again lost 7-4 in game 1 to UVA there in Charlottesville. All right, I want to go to baseball real quick. You and I had a conversation when you walked in this morning, Alex. The London game. That's the first game on the board today, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 o'clock Eastern. The Mets and the Phillies. The Mets stink. We know this. The Phillies are the National League's best going into this series, and arguably the best pitcher in baseball so far this year will go for Philly. Ranger Suarez did have an injury scare his last time out, but he's good to go. He's going today across the pond. The Mets will throw in Sean Manaea, so a pair of lefties in this game. Oh. And, you know, this game's had a ton of movement, by the way, both side and total. Sidewise, Phillies opened minus 153. They got as high as minus 170. They're now down to minus 144. So, wild ride, to say the very least, on this. You could have had the best of the number both ways here now. You could have the best of the number at the moment on the Phils if you want to take that. Don't bet the Mets anymore. You could have had plus 155 about an hour and a half ago. The total's what you and I are eyeballing here. And now we get to have fun with numbers, right, Alex White? We get to have fun with numbers. Now, keep in mind, this is a very small sample size for the London Stadium games. We've only had 4 of them. The dimensions are slightly different this year, but not enough for me to justify the fact that we've never had a game go sub 10 in London. We're sub 10 on this total right now. 9.5, currently juiced to the over. That just flipped. It was 9.5 juiced to the under when we came on the air. But this is one of those where I get it's Ranger Suarez. I get it's the Mets, even though the Mets offense had a good week in Washington.
Yes, they did.
Isn't this just one of those you hold your nose and be like, all right, I'm just going to take the ballpark factors here. And if this thing stays in single digits, all right, so be it. I might just get a better number tomorrow when the market overreacts again.
I think it's worth a little bit. I mean, I wouldn't do a full unit on this because we do want to see how the extended dimensions actually do play out here. But you're right, small sample size, but the median in the 4 games last year is 17.5. That first game flew over 17-13, and then the last 3 games, though, median is 12, but still, that is significantly more than 9.5 here. So I would put a little on it. Maybe Phillies money line in the over.
Well, remember 2019, we started off right away with a game that had 30 in it. That was 17-13 or 12. I always remember this because I bet the over in that game. And it's the easiest win I've ever had in my life because the total was 11. And it was 6-6 after 1.
That's so nice.
Oh, it's the nicest. So, all right, just get through the full game so we don't get a ridiculous void.
True.
Because, of course, you need 8.5 in order to cash your totals. Game landed 30. Next day, I think they made the total 18. Because it's like, all right, you can't make this total high enough. It got to 20. So that was more in part thanks to a 9-run 7th by the Yankees in that game. But last year, the Cardinals and the Cubs went over there. Game 1, they did go under because those totals were high because everyone remembered it. But now we are adjusting even further than we already were. So, look, again, we talk about ballpark factors all the time. We talk about it in Colorado. We talk about it in Chicago with Wrigley. We talked about it earlier in the year when the games were in Mexico City.
Yep.
You got to be aware of your ballpark factors. And again, the gaps are really where they put the extra distance in this go around. Not a lot, only an extra 5 to 10 feet, depending, which that can make a difference for sure. But it's something to at least monitor on that. But I think you and I are in agreement here. You take the 5.5, you go especially if you can find a book. There are books that still have a juice under. Lay $1.05 instead of $1.15.
Yeah.
Fine with me. And if it loses, I lose less juice. It's not the worst thing in the world. The rest of the baseball card today. Braves are minus 126 behind us against Washington.
That's good, right?
I know Mackenzie Gore's Washington's best pitcher, but we really doing this here?
That's the only play that I really like today, besides the Phillies too. So, yeah, that's a very low number. And these two already played each other, right? And Washington won 3 of the 4 in that first series. So, makes me lean to Atlanta even more. I think that's a good price.
That's a really good price.
Yeah, you got Charlie Morton on.
Yeah, I mean, look, if Washington beats you, so be it. Braves, by the way, have been shut out more this year than they have all of last year already, which, again, Ronald Acuna still out. Won't see him again this year with the torn ACL, but it'll be interesting to see how we go through the rest of the year. The rest of the card, I'm kind of with you, Alex. Nothing really stood out. The only thing that I'm going to monitor this, but I don't think we'll get the price where it needs to be. Freddie Peralta is a minus 160 favorite against Detroit today. I wish it was $1.50. $1.50 would be an auto snap bet on Peralta here. But minus 160, can't get there. Can't get there on that, Alex.
Yeah, I think that is a little bit high there. The only other one I was looking at is an under with the Red Sox and the White Sox here, which the White Sox did win.
Finally won a game last night.
So if it's still 8.5. It's gone the other way though, and as we've been talking about, it is getting hotter. So I'm kind of treading lightly with my unders in baseball right now.
Bayo is a minus 220 favorite. Welcome to the White Sox in 2024. I mean, yikes. And I don't mind. I think Bayo is fine, but minus 220 on the road, whew, it's a huge price with a guy who's had his struggles this year. A lot to lay, to say the very least. Before we get to our guy Willie G, Ramirez, who will join us in a few moments here, I just will bring up real quick because you mentioned your college baseball plays for today. Alex is taking 3.5 runs with both Kansas State and West Virginia today. The only other one I would even consider today would be taking Oregon. I know Texas A&M is loaded in every which way. Find the 3.5 that's out there. There are a few. You are laying about $1.30, but that would be the only other way I'd even consider looking at Oregon. Even though, again, as your dad pointed out the other day, as Kenny White pointed out, Texas A&M real good, and that is a home field advantage that unbelievably matters in college baseball. All right, we'll take a quick break. When we get back, Willie G. Ramirez will join us next. We're talking WNBA and also, Caitlin Clark in the news again. Big game last night for her in D.C. and then left off the Olympic team, according to reports this morning. We'll be back with that when we come back. Sports by the Book, South Point Studio.
From the South Point Studio, the perfect blend of sports.
But I think the Niners are going to wear them down. Detroit Pistons lost their 36 games.
Comedy.
See over-under on that relationship lasting. I'm going to put mayo in the coffee.
Yes.
I am beautiful. And a whole lot of Pittsburgh.
In Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh. Yeah. Pittsburgh.
Join Ryan McCormick.
That's at least 2 picks outside of our own in the first round next year. Oreo.
And host Frank Nicotero.
I look at the clock. I go,
Watch Punchlines live at noon every weekday.
Once you've satisfied your hunger, get ready for more of the hottest casino games in Vegas. Our 24-hour 30-table non-smoking poker room proudly hosts all the most popular poker games with a variety of betting limits. Visit the poker room for a schedule of daily tournaments. Whether you're going to hold 'em or fold 'em, the best place for poker is at South Point Casino. You'll notice that our craps tables are usually the loudest in the casino. If you've never played, join one of our free craps lessons to find out what makes this game so exciting. Check with the craps dealer for schedules and give it a roll. Bingo is also an exciting way to spend your time. We offer 7 sessions of bingo every day. Bingo! And each session includes a cash ball jackpot, 12 bingo games, a progressive double action game, and a $10,000 bonus coverall. Electronic units are available. If you haven't played bingo with us, give it a try today. Guests can also get in on the action at our one-of-a-kind race and sports books. 2 separate rooms designed to maximize your experience and comfort. Our sports book, with over 400 seats, puts you right in the middle of the action, 24 hours a day.
Welcome back in, excuse me, Sports by the Book, South Point Studio. I'm Jeff Parles. Alex White is here as well. And now joining us, he's been around this town for a long while now. You can find his work over at WGRamirez.com. You also see his work in the AP. You see him on the Sporting Tribune, Arash Markazi's great website based out of here in Vegas and in Los Angeles. It's Willie G. Ramirez with us right now. Willie, thanks for being with us this morning.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. It's Alex has been excited all week to have you on to talk the WNBA, and boy, we get handed a really fun story right out of the gate this morning and last night. Coming off of her best game in the WNBA, Caitlin Clark looked like she was back at Iowa last night, 30 points, 7 threes in a fever win on the road against the Mystics. And then right after that game ends, the reports start coming out that she was not selected as one of the 12 on the Olympic team. And Willie, again, this is, just showing the split of people who have followed this league for a long time and are in it every day, and a lot of people that are just coming in for the first time with Caitlin Clark, and obviously followed her through Iowa, now following her in the WNBA in Indiana. Just your thoughts on when you saw that report and the roster at hand for the Americans. Obviously, they're going to win the gold medal yet again, and that roster is obviously spectacular for the all these Olympics going back to 1992 when the pros were allowed to start playing.
Well, I have 2 things for some Caitlin Clark lovers, and I hate to disappoint you. Number one is look up and down that roster and tell me who she's going to replace and who she deserves to replace, first of all. Second of all, I don't think that Caitlin Clark was a guarantee shot to accept a bid to play for the Olympic team if she was asked to play. Let's not forget that this is a girl who was just in college, okay, opened up her final year of college in training, then went through a rigorous season, played all the way into the Final Four, championship, loses it, 10 days later, goes to the WNBA draft, a couple of weeks later goes into training camp, then plays 11 games in 20 days. Do we really think that this girl was ready to jump on a plane, go across the country when we know she's going to be on the 2028 team and probably the 2032 team? Why? I think that there's a good chance that she would have turned down the offer respectfully, as gracious as it is and as great as it is to put USA across your chest. There's a good chance that she would have turned down the bid, and maybe, just maybe, she put that message out there like, hey, I need a break, and that's why she's not going to get the invite.
I think that's a great point there. And I know that you cover all 12 teams in depth. I'm curious, how are the players feeling and the coaches feeling? What are their thoughts on this Commissioner's Cup, the in-season tournament, going from 10 games now to 5? So each game is so much more meaningful.
Yeah, it's put the pressure on. It's made it's intensified things, as Becky Hammond and Noelle Quinn pointed out last night at the Mandalay Bay in that game. It's made, with so much money on the line, and we talk about salaries all the time with these ladies. It's intensified things, but it's also stepped things up with the regular season race as well. Because now when you look at the Western Conference, all of a sudden Seattle makes a statement last night with the win over Las Vegas. If you look at the 3 of their first 4 games, they had lost to the top tier teams. Now their victories outside of Vegas were against losing teams. So I asked both Becky Hammon and Noelle Quinn before the game last night, hey, do you look at something like that, Becky, to break down film as to the fact that they have struggled against winning teams? She said no, because the parity across the league, even the Washington Mystics, they've been in close games. And Noelle Quinn said, yeah, you could look at that, but we look at progression. So with Commissioner's Cup picking up, these next 2 weeks, these are important games, not just for the money, but also for the conference standings because of the extended break after the All-Star break with the ladies going over to Paris.
Willie, just going back to that game last night here in Vegas, that was a pretty significant upset by the lines there. It's Storm closed 8.5, 9-point underdogs, and we're clearly the better team for the majority of that game. Obviously, everyone pointed to the fourth quarter, but it was a sluggish start for the Aces as well in that game. And look, it's early in the season. They won back-to-back titles, so there's really no reason for real alarm bells, but I know Chelsea Gray hasn't played yet this year, but is it as simple as, hey, get Chelsea Gray back and the Aces will start fully clicking again? Or is there something else that's missing from this Aces team that was there the last 2 years when they were winning back-to-back titles?
No, and this came up a couple of weeks ago, and I wanted to write a story, and I sort of touched on it, is, the Liberty lost to, the Aces lost to the Mercury, and everyone was up in arms. What's going on? I think that all the other teams have caught up. I'll never forget last year, Sandy Brundello, the coach of the New York Liberty, said, hey, right now it's all about the Las Vegas Aces and the rest of the pack. We have to catch up. Well, I think during the offseason, a lot of teams caught up. The Sun are the most physical team in the league, and they're veteran-laden. The Minnesota Lynx retooled. They finished as a top 4 team. The Phoenix Mercury, they beat the Aces. They brought in Natasha Cloud and Kalia Copper. The Seattle Storm, as we saw last night, with Skylar Diggins-Smith and Nneka Ogwumike. These are teams that have just bolstered their lineups. Even the Atlanta Dream, which beat the Aces, right? They brought in Ariel Powers, who is a fire starter. I can't wait till Jordan Kennedy gets into the lineup. So what we're seeing is that we're just seeing retooled teams that have gotten better and have caught up to the Liberty and the Aces. What did the Aces do realistically to get better? They brought in Kate Martin off the draft. She's a surprise draft pick out of the second round, and that's great. But as you mentioned, Chelsea Gray's on the shelf. Candace Parker's retired. Kirsten Bell is on the shelf right now. Alicia Gray, who was the 6th player of the year, is now in the starting lineup. Kia Stokes is back in the starting lineup. So, you have a core group, but in reality, they're having to sort of rebuild the chemistry with different lineups, different looks against teams that they didn't see the last couple of years because they have now improved. I think it's the rest of the team catching up, not a panic button on the Aces. It's a matter of Becky Hammon buckling down, doing some coaching, and restructuring things against a very good league.
It's a fun time right now. I'm really enjoying seeing that parity and these teams catch up to the top. 2 of these teams playing tonight that have been at the top for quite some time now, and that's the New York Liberty and the Connecticut Sun, both undefeated in the Commissioner's Cup games, and the Sun's the last undefeated team throughout this season. What do you like here, or do you see any value in the betting stance? New York 2-point favorite, even without Vandersloot. Total in this one has moved all the way down to 154. There was some 158.5 last night.
Yeah, I don't like the line movement in the totals in the WNBA. They're so volatile, as you know, Alex. They move quickly, and they either drop or rise. By points, a lot of points. I lean toward the underdog in this one. I think Courtney Vandersloot is a big intangible to miss. With this team. The Liberty is still a stacked team, but Connecticut doesn't give you a lot of space. They don't give you room to operate. This is a physical team. Alyssa Thomas is an MVP candidate. She's somebody who she can fill any role. She can bring the ball up court. She can bang in the paint. She can, she can hit from long range. DeWanna Bonner has already gotten an Eastern Conference Game of the Week honor this this season. And it goes down the line. The biggest intangible is Brianna Jones. Let's not forget, she was the 6th player of the year, and she missed last year with the Achilles injury. So having her back in the lineup, and I think up for most improved player of the year, along with De'Erica Hamby, is Dejanay Carrington. Her defense is relentless. We saw what she did to Caitlin Clark, and we know what she can do if they put her up against Sabrina Ionescu. I think Connecticut right now is playing with a big chip on its shoulder because coming into this season, everybody was talking about the Aces and the Liberty in a finals rematch, and these are the teams to beat. And they seem to forget that the Connecticut Sun are, like I said, a veteran-laden team with a lot of experience, and they play a physical brand of basketball. They are not a team to take lightly. I like Connecticut plus the points. I wouldn't touch the total because at any given time you can get a quarter eruption from each team. So you can see Connecticut erupt in the second, Liberty erupt in the third, a battle in the fourth, and maybe it comes down to what took place in the first, and it trickles in the middle of those of the original total and what it's been bet down to. So I don't trust the betting market moving the total as much, but I do like Connecticut.
Well, the other game today, Chicago will host Atlanta. Atlanta right now is a 1.5 favorite on the road in Chicago. We have seen both ends of the spectrum with both of these teams. Obviously, injuries impacting the Dream. We've seen them play at a very high level. We've seen them struggle at times offensively without Jordan Canada. And then the Sky, as we know, you talk about teams changing their rosters. The most changed roster in the entire league going into this year. We've seen some really good from this young team. We've seen some mediocre as well from this young team, the inconsistencies of being a new-look team in this league.
Yeah, what's the total on that one right now?
158.5. That is down a point from this morning.
See, not as volatile. I actually would lean toward the total before anything in that one because you are talking about the Chicago Sky who said, hey, we'll take on the villain role. Angel Reese, I absolutely love her media sessions, and Caitlin Clark's too, but I love that Angel doesn't hold back. I think between her and Kennedy Carter, and I mean the whole lineup in reality, Camila Cardosa has stepped into the lineup since returning from an injury. I think this has the makings to be an extremely physical basketball game. I could see a lot of chirping in this one. Aerial Powers, she knows how to stir it up. So I like the under before anything, and it wouldn't shock me if Chicago wins as a home dog. I don't touch this one only because I know what Tanisha Wright is capable of doing. She does a good job of coaching. And Alicia Gray is as dangerous as any shooter in the league. She can hurt you if she gets on a roll. And the problem is Chicago likes to play that physical game. They have the bigs. And if nobody steps outside and Alicia Gray is left alone in the corner, she can hit from 3. She just got done playing in Athletes Unlimited in March, a 4-week season. It's an off-season pro league, and she won the overall championship. It's based on fantasy-like stats. She won the overall total leaderboard, took home the money, and she comes into this season with a wealth of confidence. Atlanta wants to jump into that playoff race. So I don't dare mess with the line only because if Chicago gets physical and Angel Reese can control the offensive boards, they'll stay in this game. But I do like the under, thinking that it's going to be very hard and difficult to go on lengthy scoring runs for both teams.
He's Willie G. Ramirez. You can get him on the tweets at his name, Willie G. Ramirez, WGRamirez.com. You can find his work as well in the AP, the Sporting Tribune, WNBA storyteller, and he does a great job covering the league through and through. Willie, thank you for being with us this morning.
You got it. I appreciate it.
Thank you
Talk
so
to
much.
y'all later.
Absolutely. Willie G. Ramirez. Awesome to talk to Willie. I've known Willie from around town for a long time, never had him on one of my shows. So it's great to talk to him this morning.
Yes, fantastic breakdown too. And everything he said is what we've kind of been alluding to with the parity and how good these teams and them catching up to these top ones. Of course, it's still early in the season, but I'm excited to talk to him throughout the season and as we get closer to that Commissioner's Cup game and even the finals.
Let's take a quick break. When we get back, does he have his laptop? You have your laptop today? Of course he does. It's hiding. I don't have it's a bad view. You also have that too. Vinny Magliulo will join us next on Sports by the Book.
We have 11 amazing restaurants featuring a wide variety for every price range and appetite. South Point's Garden Buffet has something for everyone at unbeatable prices. Or, if hunger strikes in the middle of the night, join us at Coronado Cafe. The American menu offers breakfast, lunch, or dinner 24 hours a day, plus a Chinese kitchen for authentic Chinese dishes from 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. From steak and eggs to wonton soup, it's fast and friendly service 24/7. When you need a quick pick-me-up, you can find it at our state-of-the-art Starbucks just inside the main South Point entrance. Order ahead with the Starbucks app for easy mobile order pickups. Or enjoy your favorites in the relaxing dining area anytime, day or night. If you love Mexican food, Baja Miguel's has all of your south-of-the-border favorites. There are dozens of classics to choose from, like fajitas, ceviche, chimichangas, tacos, and more. And for spirit lovers, Baja's colorful non-smoking tequila bar is right outside. Or maybe you're in the mood for seafood. Big Sur Oyster Bar has fresh seafood prepared right before your eyes. Savor freshly shucked oysters, crab legs jambalaya, shrimp and lobster. Beers on tap and a selection of fine wines are perfect to pair with your seafood favorite. Whether lunch or dinner, you'll love this fun atmosphere, located just off the casino floor. Ready to shake things up? Step back in time and treat yourself to one of the oldest restaurant chains in the country. Steak and Shake, famous for original mouth-watering steak burgers and hand-dipped milkshakes in a variety of flavors. For some old-fashioned fun, try Steak and Shake.
Welcome back in Sports by the Book, South Point Studio. Jeff Parles, Alex White, Vinny Maliulo.
What's up, kids?
Baby Yoda just won at Saratoga, by the way.
Yes, nice day at Saratoga. Baby. By the way, you mentioned my laptop. I also have what
That's not your laptop.
veterans call. This is my Bible. This is the Bible.
You're cheating on the laptop, Vinny.
Well, they're over here. My sheets are here. But
It's
growing
big
up,
day.
this
He
was
has to.
the racing forms, the Bible. That's a little old school term for you there, Jeffrey. So Saratoga, Belmont Day. Well, although we're not at Belmont.
It's Belmont at Saratoga today,
Yes.
as we have it listed. So
4 great days of racing up there, by the way. And then the circuit will go back to Aqueduct, the Naira circuit, for a bit, and then about mid-July head back up to Saratoga for their regular meet. Some folks may not realize or are wondering why the Belmont is being run at Saratoga this year. Renovations taking place at Belmont. Lots of work being done there, and so with that also, this race will not be 1.5 miles as it traditionally has been. It's 1.25 miles, which is the same as the Kentucky Derby, although the track is configured a bit differently. So what I mean by that is that it's obviously the oval and everything, but the start and finish lines are different than they are at Churchill Downs.
Vinny, have you checked out the weather
Yeah.
there? Do you have an update for us?
Right now, everything the track is
looks pretty good
it's
right now.
fast. It's sunny, but they had a thunderstorm yesterday. What happens? And I think it's just unseasonably warm. Well, it's just unseasonably warm around the country right now. But a lot of times at Saratoga, and for the upcoming Saratoga meet, pay attention to adjusted post times, because what happens? They get thunderstorms up there, and they'll tighten up the times between races and things like that. But as far as today goes, it looks like the weather's going to be pretty good. I think the scheduled post time today is 3:40 Pacific, so our time, but it'll probably go a little bit later. They'll get as much time as possible in for that for the Belmont.
I had to ask because that was a big part of Mystic Dan winning the Kentucky Derby.
Yeah,
right?
no doubt that the weather, with the way the track came up a bit off, Alex, and so it was a little bit off actually in the Preakness too. It wasn't the best of conditions.
Right.
Mystic Dan finished second there. Mystic Dan getting some betting attention today, and not surprisingly, although look, here's the thing, right? When you look at it, running for the third time within 5 weeks is a challenge for this and the previous generation of horses. So it's a little bit of a challenge there. Sees the Gray, who's in the one hole. Dwayne Lucas, horse who did win the Preakness, probably going to take the same approach here and go out. But look, I'm looking for a price. I know Eddie Olczyk was on the other day, and Eddie is, and a lot of folks are high on the 10-horse Mindframe.
Yep.
This is Mindframe's only third start.
I can't believe that. Yes.
It's a quality field. Look, but you know what? Todd Pletcher, who's got 2 other horses in the race, obviously feels this horse is ready. He's got probably one of, if not the best jockey in the world in Irad Ortiz in the irons here. So certainly worth a look. But I'm kind of looking at a price here. I'm going to take a shot with the 8-horse Honor Marie. I'm just going to put it out there, take a chance. It's simply a price play, and maybe these other horses can, duel it out up front. And again, just kind of the configuration of where the start and the finish is in this one here. And a lot of these horses that have run, a couple of times in 5 weeks. I'm gonna take it. Honor Marie was in the Derby, finished 8th in the Derby, did make a late bid and then just kind of flattened out a bit, but. I don't know, for 12 to 1 on the morning line, I think worth a shot. At least certainly when I construct my exotics, Honor Marie will be in there.
I can tell you right now, Vinny, I will inevitably have Sierra Leone.
Favorite right now.
The favorite again. Sierra Leone will inevitably finish second because I bet him to win. That will inevitably be what happens.
Well, why? Naturally, right?
It's automatic.
I've had 2, 3, and 4 in the last 2 Triple Crown races. But of course, you don't usually unless you find that hit that all button on top. You're not going to cash those. But now Sierra Leone is favored. A jockey change. Flavian Pratt is going to ride Sierra Leone today, and listen, worth consideration too. Again, when you're constructing your tickets, but 10 horses right now. We haven't had any scratches, and again, the weather looks to be pretty good
and a really good field.
Yeah, it is a good field, really. I mean, you've got both the Derby and the Preakness winner in there. You've got a couple of other really good horses. Resilience is getting some betting attention. Again, Mindframe we talked about in the 10 hole. I think it's listen. I'd rather have the Belmont than not. So, but it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out too up at Saratoga.
Before we get to other sports related things, Sean, you can take this live here. I just want to show Vinny this. This is on. I sent this in for Punchlines on Thursday. We weren't able to get it, but you got it yesterday.
Yes, we did.
Vinny, you walk up to Buckingham Palace and see that. What's your reaction? And of course, the famed Philly fanatic.
Yeah.
Somehow accepted to the King's Guard there.
Well, what happened to Mr. Met? Where was he?
Vinny, the hat doesn't fit on his head properly.
Well, then he should have been at Big Ben or something. But I know this, that I know the Philly fanatic was not one of the 4 Phillies that did the Abbey Road walk. So I guess because he didn't make that walk, he had to find something. But yeah, I heard Mr. Met might be at Big Ben or at some pub.
Oh, forget Big Ben.
Right?
He needs to be at the pub.
Why not?
By the way,
the Mets should probably be at the pub.
Can we just ask you about that game? Because Alex and I were talking about this earlier, where historically speaking, and it is a small sample size. I get it. It's only 4 games that they played in London through the years, because they were gonna be a lot more if we didn't have the pandemic. But we're sub 10. No game has ended sub 10 in this ballpark.
On the total, yeah.
Yes, on the total. For the side we talked about has been bet all over the map, but that's, I think, just more a product of it being the first game of the day, more so than anything.
Shifting,
But
2-way action at the Deskin in London.
You might have to give Vinny his one shot when he does that next. But 9.5 for a game, for a ballpark that is played basically like Coors Field. If Coors Field was played at 10,000 feet,
right?
Not 5,280, Vinny.
No, it's I don't know I don't know if it's got to do with the way the batters pick the ball up, with the backdrops and things like that. I mean, obviously that plays a part, but I think you have to take into account also look at the teams, right? I mean, the Phillies mash, the Met pitching has not been consistent all year, so you've got to anticipate that the Phillies are going to put runs up on the board, and if the Mets can swing a little bit, then if you can get 4 runs out of the Mets here, then I think 3, maybe even 3. But the way the Phillies hit the ball, and to your point, Jeff, the way that the game plays out over there, and again, while it is a small sample size, it's certainly something to take note of.
Are you buying this Phillies team? Because I am. I know a lot of people are saying we're going to see the regression, which of course a little bit, but
great question, Alex. I think they've answered some of the questions, right? I mean, up until 2 weeks ago, I think they played one team that had a winning record, right? Then they went, they're playing better competition and they're answering it. They're a very together group. They're getting good pitching. As I mentioned, they do hit the ball well. There's chemistry there.
Yes.
And I think part of buying the Phillies is the fact that the Braves are have so many injuries.
Yes.
And again, that comes into play with the division because that's where they're going to play the majority of their games. So the Mets have been very inconsistent. They've got the Marlins and of course the Nationals in there. So you could say, look, maybe their schedule is not that daunting, but they get the job done. And I love the fact that they've got 18, 20 guys from last year that, again, a very together group. I look at chemistry a lot with teams, and I think the Phillies have as good a chemistry as there is in the league. Are they going to hit a rough spot? Probably. I mean, during the course of a season, teams typically do that. But again, if you look at the Phillies, you've got to look at the rest of the division, and they're definitely the strongest team in the division.
Vinny, to the ice. We just have to ask you. We brought this up earlier, and I think Alex and I know the answer to this. But Zach Hyman has been drastically bet.
Yes.
In the Conn Smythe market here behind us.
Mm-hmm. 100-1. How many tickets do you have at 100-1?
I don't have any tickets at 100-1. I know Alex has a ticket at 100-1.
Atta girl.
Of course.
Yeah.
He's 5-1. So reflection of money. Look, you look at Hyman and the kind of year he's had, he still flies under the radar outside of Edmonton or the folks that follow hockey, right? Draisaitl and McDavid get all of the publicity, and understandably so. But he's also, I think, they benefit as does he, being paired, right? So if you look at from the Oilers side. McDavid and Draisaitl at 15-1, and I'm sorry, McDavid at 220, and then Draisaitl at a little over 7-1. Right? It's a play on the price for a guy that's had a terrific season. He's had a great year. So now going up against a better team in the Panthers. So kind of, a contrast in style, really, when you look at both of these teams, it's going to be, I think, whose special teams really wins it. I know there's a lot of talk about the 5-on-5, but I think, to me, both teams have done a terrific job with the penalty kill, and I think that's a surprise to people when you talk about the Edmonton Oilers, but you have to give them credit for what they've done with their penalty kill. But this is a different dynamic with the Panthers. So... but if you like the Oilers in the series and you're looking for a price on the Conn Smythe, then Hyman is the play.
Swapping over to the NBA, we're not on tomorrow.
Wait, hold on.
Yeah, go ahead.
How many games do you think we'll have in this series?
In the Stanley Cup in the final, Alex? I think 6 is reasonable. I mean, frankly, both teams have shown the ability to win on the road, and I just don't see either side running away with it. I think the two advantages for the Panthers, obviously, and the price speaks to the fact that they're the favorite. Which, by the way, South Point, Chrissy Andrews, director, put up. There's a 10-cent straddle now,
Right.
Not only on the game but also on the series price. So if you're looking to bet the game or the series price, there's not going to be a better opportunity for you. So in terms of value, Paul Maurice, a decade ago, he was Knobloch, right? Kind of just getting into it and everything like that. He's got a lot of games and a lot of playoff games on his resume, and I still think that the edge remains in goal for the Panthers with Bobrovsky. Although Skinner, since he was taken out and put back in, has done a great job. Remember that game they were down 2-0. I think it was game 4. They were down 2-0 to Dallas, and that was all he gave up the rest of the game. And that second goal in that game was kind of fluky. Off of his own defenseman's backside. So he's definitely played better. But those two advantages, I think, point to Florida. And but I can certainly think that the Oilers are capable of extending the series at the very least. And hey, listen, they're good enough to win it. I mean, they've shown that they've played great.
To the NBA.
Yeah,
we won't be here tomorrow. 7 right now on Dallas are getting those points. Total went way under in game 1. Total is not moved right now behind us, 214.5 for game 2. Celtics now to win the series are $4 favorites. Vinny, I'll just say this. I know Dallas has bounced back in the 2 series they lost this postseason. They won both game 2s. Boston, the first 2 rounds, played their worst games in the postseason, lost both of those game 2s. It does feel like that if Dallas is going to get back into the series, forget the 7. They're going to have to win this, probably have to win this game outright to really make this a long series. I don't know if I can get there on taking a plus 220, but that 7 feels pretty good, all things considered, at least on my end.
Well, 260, 220 on the money line. Numbers holding steady at 7. A little bit more money on Dallas. To your point, Jeff, not a real surprise there. And the total hasn't moved, but I know it went under, but we needed it under. They bet that total up 3 or 4 points. So it was a big move to the over there. Series price adjusted was $4.50. It's come down a little bit, so it's now $4 plus $3.40, which again is a very fair straddle. So, yeah, I mean, I could see support for Dallas in this game, and if you look at the way the Celtics have played throughout the playoffs, and to your point, the Mavs as well, very, very capable. Listen. When they got down, what was it, 37, 39 points? I mean, they got doubled up the other night in the second quarter. I know Dallas made a run. I think they closed it to 8, but it was just too much of a lead to overcome. And Porzingis was a difference maker for them. So a deeper roster too now compared to those other rounds for the Celtics. But if the Mavs are going to make this a series, or if they're going to have a chance to win the series, this is a game I think that they're going to need.
See how it plays out tomorrow night. Earlier start for game number 2, 5 o'clock Pacific, 8 o'clock local time there in Boston to get you going for your Sunday. And the Sunday Scaries will be in full swing by the end of that game, Alex. Right? Not for us, because Monday is our Sunday.
Correct.
Here on the show. Vinny, it's a pleasure as always.
Good to be with both of you.
We'll see you again, I'm sure, at least once next week. Maybe twice. Who knows?
Maybe twice.
Maybe twice. We might have to put you and Kaluch on at the same time.
Good. Yeah, and bring the wine list.
I can bring the wine. Don't have to tell me twice on that one there, Vinny. Good work by Jerry, who were a very rare Saturday for Jerry. Thank you for coming in. Doing
Jerry
a great
and
job
Sean.
as always. Sean always here on the weekends. Always
here.
Always here. That does feel like he
24/7,
is always here, actually. I can't argue with that
No days off.
at all. I can go in the Belichick route. I'm Jeff Parles. She's Alex White. We'll see you again on Tuesday, 9 a.m. Sports by the Book, South Point Studio.